Hello and welcome to the Berkcast, the How to Train Your Dragon podcast. I'm your host, HC, and with me all.
Rush 2112.
And Wolf.
And today we have a bit of an unusual topic because I didn't come up with this one. Rush did. Give him a round of applause. That
Your phrasing there and the fact that you were the only one clapping before Wolf was doing this made it sound really condescending. Oh, it's an unusual topic because I didn't make it.
you about that?
Sure, whatever you said there.
I it doesn't know.
You're robotic.
Okay.
Hi, Robot
I'm robotic.
HC. Yes,
In
you're
other
robotic.
words, for an
for the love of-
unusual.
Is likeness to
Just
Very
keep
robotic. He died.
trying. Just keep trying. And therefore, the AI revolution was squashed. Are you back?
testing.
Hello.
Okay. Anyway, before this gets in, we are going to ask the very legit question: could How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World? No. Before we
No.
Nope.
start,
Before
we're
we
going
start,
to.
I'm
Before
sure
we
our audience
start.
would like to know exactly
You know,
what HC said. Because...
8C, why don't I host this episode? Because it is my idea.
Seriously?
And you are
Yeah, you're
quite
still very
robotic.
robot.
We'll try and get your point of view.
For the love of, hold on.
Okay, audience. So this week's episode.
Go
I
for
feel
it.
like I should. Yeah, okay. This week's episode, my idea was, could the hidden world stand on its own? And what I mean by this is if you saw this film without any reference to the others, or this was the first film in any franchise, how would it change your view? I got this idea because I had seen all of the other people's responses to the movie and how they thought about that, and I said, well, some of them were negative, and I was like, well, it's still a pretty good message. It's just it may not have, to some people, it may not have followed the same theme as the other two movies. But if it was its own movie, I think it would have been better appreciated, maybe. That's what we're about to discuss today.
Okay.
So, we'll go right into it. First question. If you hadn't seen other movies, what callbacks and references would you have flat out missed? Who would like to
Since
go
you're our
first?
intro for today, how about you start us off, Rush?
Well, apparently my parents killed the Wi-Fi, so
They also killed your chances of hosting this episode.
well, you want to go right ahead? Give me.
I
a
already
I'm ready.
did.
Okay. Okay. So
I'll
were
start
we?
with the first question. Actually, you came in just in time. I'm going first since it's my topic, according to Wolf. I guess that's what we have done in the past. But so I'm gonna start flat out. Right, if you hadn't seen the first movies, the first two movies, you would have missed the. Now we have another question later that's kind of may contradict depending on your views. But for the ones that you would flat out miss, there's definitely the one about building Toothless's tail before. I feel like that would be like he did it before, but that kind of also goes in with the next one. You don't really need context for it. It's like, okay, that was just a story on its own. But there was also the Grimmel's telling Hiccup, look where, you befriended dragons, your father befriended dragons, look where that got him. That one you probably need a bit more context. Like, you're like, okay, well, what happened to his dad? He's like, okay, something happened with dragons. Was it, were they fighting before? Were they friends?
You could definitely infer a little bit for that
You
one.
can, but I feel like this one requires a little more context.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Given the scene in the movie, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually thought about this a bit when when we said we were going to do this episode, that let's assume on the first viewing, especially if you haven't seen the other two movies beforehand, like when Grimmel shows up and he says, well, it's been a year since Drago's defeat, and so do you think there's a chance people who are just going into this movie would think that Drago is Hiccup's father? Because outside of one moment where Grimmel refers to Hiccup as Stuek's boy, which you can miss if you're not, which you can miss. I actually missed that the first time too. I only caught it the second time, or at least I didn't remember it after the first time. And then, do you think it's a possibility?
That's actually a good point. And definitely one of the more you need more context. That one would be a really, really hard callback to miss. I don't know if they would draw the line to it. It depends on how close they are together. If it even references like Hiccup's dad after he mentions Drago. So that one, definitely in terms of referencing missing it, I think yes, you would miss it. I don't know if you'd draw the dots between Drago and dad.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I've seen people draw dots I watched Captain America Civil War a few years ago with some people, and they thought that Scarlet Witch is Black Widow, even though that's not true at all. And there are a lot more hints. There are a lot of facts in front of you that that's not the case. So people can draw some stupid conclusions every once in a while. So
this is true. People will people.
You're not wrong.
Hmm.
People will people.
One reference you'll definitely miss is Drago's Bewilderbeast.
Oh yeah, in the hidden world.
Yeah.
It's like why is that gigantic ass dragon missing a tusk?
Yeah, if you notice it to begin with, honestly.
I think if you went back to watch the movie a second time, or if you saw it on DVD, Blu-ray, you might notice it, and you might question like, why is it missing a tusk? I'm sure most people will say, well, it probably got in a fight with the people who are hunting dragons.
Actually, that's another thing. That's another thing that if you don't have at least the second movie under your belt, you might not know why Toothless is the alpha. Like, what makes him so special that he's the king of all dragons?
That's a pretty good one. Yeah, and we can kind of make this instead of like, what would you miss? What would you not understand? Like, even like the Easter eggs you would miss. Like that. That I would consider that an Easter egg, or well, given the history of what the Hidden World went through, it could have meant something more earlier. But yeah, so it's not necessarily that you'd miss it. People would see it, like, okay, but they wouldn't know why. They wouldn't know what it means, what it signifies.
Mm-hmm. And there's also the line of that supposedly the Race to the Edge reference, when Hiccup says we've dealt with this kind before. So it's like, again, people who haven't seen the other movies could just assume this is something that happens in either the first or the second one and not even think about the TV show. But we know that, I think even people who saw the previous two could probably say, well, that's probably a reference to the show, even if they didn't watch it. But
well,
people...
Yes and no, because in the second movie, at the beginning, we have Hiccup saying, this isn't your standard run for the hills hoo-ha. And so that people could treat it, the Hidden World reference, the same as this reference. Even if they have seen the other movies, they would be like, oh, it's just one of those things where, it's another off-screen story, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not.
Mm-hmm. But again, you won't draw the conclusion. Either way, you won't draw the conclusion that it's supposedly referring to to something that happens in a show that's spun off from these movies.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
Okay, let me think if there's any other references. Like, I'm trying to run through the entire thing in my head. You know, maybe you guys mentioned that because it's the obvious one, but people are people are assuming what happened to Stoic, like what happened to Hiccup's dad, because we see him in flashbacks, and actually we see in the flashbacks that Hiccup has two legs. So you know, maybe hearing people theorize what could have probably happened to his leg with no context could have been funny.
Yeah, the leg is a big one. Like that would be interesting to hear. Like, yeah, they would definitely get. Yeah, he lost it, but that played a huge part in the first movie that you would just miss out on.
Oh, come on. We all know what happened. Roughnut was right. It fell off.
This is true.
I love how Rush assumes that we're talking about people who've seen nothing of it, but they've seen that one random episode of the show to get that reference.
It was the best episode.
Well, you heard it here first. This is Rush's favorite episode of the show. Even though he gave him a completely different episode in the countdown we did.
It would probably... I don't think you would miss it because it's very much in the third movie, but it would probably feel a bit weird to hear Snotlout hitting on Valka.
You know, even people who watch the movies are saying that this is one of the...
It was pretty weird anyway.
No, sure, like they're saying that in general, but like,
yeah.
What I mean is like, you know, if you've watched the other movies, if you've watched the shows as well, then you get why that's the case, right? Like you kind of understand, yeah, that makes sense that Snotlout would do that. Is it weird? Yeah, but it's Snotlout. We kind of expect him to
I guess the characters, because I think by the third movie, you know, I'm not going to say they didn't give each character their own moment, but they've used what have been already established. They don't establish any more character traits for the except for Tough Nut. But they don't establish any more character traits.
Hey, his beard is magnificent. I ask of you.
Press F for respects on that.
Well, I wasn't expecting that reference.
It's my meme of the month. Anyway.
Yeah, but you know something? I think this out of all the products, let's say in this franchise, I think that this is the one that pushes the fact that Snotout and Hiccup are related the most. Because he does say at one point whenever Hiccup blows it as chief, I'm the next in line. So this is also kind of again, people who don't fans are already seeing it. So people who are just going in and hearing this line, it's like, oh, so if he's not related to Hiccup to his father, he's probably related to the mother's side. So is he hitting on his aunt?
Let's not get into details and question things too closely.
Okay, fair enough.
You disgust
me. No one really wants to really get into the nitty-gritty of who exactly...
There is a very possibility... I mean, there's the possibility... Let's just put it this way. There's other ways that he could be an aunt through not direct blood relation. So, or she could be...
I mean, if you want to be honest, they all live on an island, and apparently they've been there for generations. Take of that what you will. They might all be related to one another in some way, shape, or form. So, there's that. Oh. No, don't go.
Hey, Wolf, to quote you, wink.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Jesus Christ. My first episode hosting, we're already way off.
Yeah.
But you get used to it.
I'm with him. Who else?
Yeah. So we have those, but on the converse, for the ones that you could understand without much of the context, whether they be just one-off things that you could either write off as, okay, that's just another story, or things that you don't need context on, pretty much. It's just a comment of some sort.
Hiccup being chief is probably something you don't really need that much context.
I think you would get that Stoic died by the flashbacks, at the fact that Hiccup is leading everything. I think you would kind of get like that Stoic is dead. You wouldn't know how he died, but you would at least understand. Okay, yeah, Stoic, his father,
Right.
is dead.
I guess this should have been more. Well, HC's the one who wrote this, but given with the context, okay, yeah. So you could understand with the context given. Never mind. Yeah, I read that. I did read that incorrectly. So
Yeah,
yes, given the context
I,
of the movie, you
you
can
know
understand
something.
that.
This is where my laziness saves me because I copy and pasted it. That part is on you, buddy.
Which is why I said I wrote it differently.
Yep.
But I misread it. So yeah, actually, I wrote it correctly, which was me writing it correctly. You know, HC didn't want to do this script one week because he didn't actually have it written out fully. Boo-hoo.
No, the reason we didn't do it is
Moving on.
okay, whatever. I was
Thanks,
on
Wolf.
vacation for Christ's sake, but anyway. But yeah, in terms
So-
of what you can understand, so yeah, you can understand that Stoic died for through circumstances, and you can get okay. Hiccup is chief now, and again, Toothless being alpha is also something that again you can just kind of you kind of see
Roll
it and you
with.
accept
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
but at the same time it's not as clear with Hiccup because with Hiccup it's like okay, his father was the chief. You can see it in the flashbacks. He says it's my job to protect the people. One day this job will be yours. Okay, fine. But then you get to Toothless, and again I already mentioned this. It's like okay, what's his story? What makes him special? Especially if he's the last. Especially because again we know this movie outright stated that he's the last Night Fury. There are no more.
Mm-hmm.
Which also kind of begs the question, which even people who watched the previous films thought about, if how different are the Night and the Light Fury?
I believe that the Dean actually claimed that they were completely different species.
Yeah, that I know, which is why you can see Light Furies, in the hidden world. But at the same time, again, even Grimo refers to her as a Fury, which means even if not a Light Fury specifically, she is a Fury, and
I mean,
she
the body type is the same. That's just generally how people do things. You see two birds with the same body type. They're not the same species necessarily. I mean, they have the same very high class, but we really don't get the species until like way down the line.
Yeah, true. Again, I assume that it's kind of like because again we saw it previously in the franchise, specifically in the show, that you have the whispering death and you have the screaming death. Two dragons were similar but are also different.
That's because one is a tight-moving version of the other. That's not the case with this.
I bring back my theory from a few episodes ago.
Yeah, and it's a theory, but we already know it's not the case.
Yeah. The point is that there's like you're seeing right now. This is a topic that's up for debate. Nothing is really there's no official statement, at least in the film itself, regarding this. So I can see people maybe people are just walking in, maybe questioning it, that Grimmel killed all the Night Furies. So what is this Light Fury doing flying around? And
well, it's not a Night Fury. That's why he didn't kill it.
Yeah, sure, but again, people can get confused. Like we agreed on something. People are people. So
don't drag Wolf into this. He's not talking. We're the one that's arguing right now.
What does this have to do with anything? But okay,
you're the one who started it by bringing it up. What no context does this have? You're ruining my one episode.
Sorry, excuse me.
You're used to us ruining your episodes. I'm not yet.
Okay, then if I'm ruining your episode, go ahead. What else do we have? lead the way.
I honestly, so going back to you, HC, I want to say, can you simplify? Because you were kind of going off a little bit, and I couldn't really follow you. Wolf, can I finish this for a second?
Sure, I'm just gonna be here eating popcorn.
Oh, munch, munch. I thought you were saying rush, rush. I'm like, what? Uh, AC.
That's
So
on me. I should have been
yeah.
louder.
Can
That's
you
my
can
fault.
you simplify what the reference is that you can understand without the context given? Because you were kind of going a little bit off, and it was hard for me to follow there.
Okay. Okay, fair point. So in terms of what you can understand with the content. So again, Hiccup being chief, you can understand that. You can understand that Suek died in one way, and now Hiccup, his son, has taken over. So with Toothless, I say that's a bit. It's probably going to raise a bit more some questions if you're just going into this, because again, what makes him so unique as aside of being the last one. So in terms of that regard, that's something that on the one hand newcomers can understand, but the other side, people might need a bit more explanation from the previous movie to understand why Toothless is the alpha, because there's nothing in the film that clarifies why he is the alpha.
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, so just so I won't hijack the episode, got anything?
I think you don't need context around Hiccup and Astrid's relationship. You may need a little bit to understand why people freak out at the wedding, as much as at least my movie theater did. Or maybe it was me and I was just very loud. Anyway, you may need context around that, but everything else about their relationship, you're like, well, yeah, they're pretty comfortable with each other. Okay, yeah, they're dating. Okay, Gobber's suggesting marriage. Great. Maybe the underlying feelings there, because you get like the whole you get the whole sub story of like, Astrid's ready but Hiccup's not. Why is Hiccup not ready? I think that's the biggest thing that you need context for, is the relationship between Hiccup and Toothless, why it's so hard for them to separate.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing that and it kind of in a sense it doesn't suffer. I was about to bring up Infinity War for this, but then again, Infinity War is like what, movie number 18 in the franchise, and
let's just put it this way: my fiance, who doesn't watch Marvel movies, her friend took her to one of like those. I don't know if they have these in where you live, HC, but her friend took her to one of the
like that
movie
you
theaters.
marathon all of them.
Well, no, she took her to a movie theater that does like, they do like the dinner in house and lots of drinks. If you see where I'm going with this, and basically that's the only reason my fiance went.
Okay.
And her friend gave her basically a website that gave her like an 18-minute recap of what she needs to know for Infinity War.
Helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually, just for your question, yes, we do have those.
Okay.
But maybe not the best way to the best comparison, because you can. I think you can watch Hidden World without the other two and get it. But at the same time, yeah, when it comes to the big goodbye scene, it won't hit you as hard if you have it. And then in the credits when you see the flashbacks with the Yancy song, it won't hit you as much if you haven't seen the previous movies.
Yeah. Like, you're definitely going to be missing something there. Like, it's definitely going to be like, you'll get it, but you'll understand what's being done there. But without the other two movies under your belt, it's definitely, I'll agree, it's not going to hit you anywhere near as hard in terms of like just that being the end and all of that, and what that means for those two characters.
Yes. Actually, one more thing. I can't believe I forgot to mention this. That just a bit before the final battle, like after Grimmauld takes Toothless and the Light Fury, there's the Hiccup and Astrid scene, and there are two moments in there. That one, Hiccup does say, "I feel no less of a screw up from before I met Toothless." So it's he was a screw up before. Okay. again, newcomers probably won't get that. We know it because we watched the first movie. We know how Hiccup started, so we get it. But newcomers probably won't. And again, this entire conversation, it's one of those that, yeah, you can understand what they're going for, if you are just watching this one movie. But again, it won't impact you as hard if you haven't watched the previous two, to some extent, the show. And there's the entire reference of what are you gonna do about it? Probably something stupid. Again, this hits us more because we are fans. We saw the original. We know what they're going for here. But newcomers, it will be dialogue, a good dialogue maybe, but it won't have that impact.
Yeah, like it'll definitely, it's not going to hit as hard. It's going to hit. It'll be very much like this was a scene. I took it at face value. Maybe I enjoyed it a lot or had more fun with it, but with those other two movies, with more context, it takes on a whole new meaning.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess that's about everything.
Yeah. One last thing I want to mention. It's a short one. I wonder how many people are going to get the Gober and Eret hints without that line from the second movie.
Personally, I've said the line from the second movie is also really, really vague, and I would be curious to just talk to 100 different people when they walked into the movie, saw it, and walked out, and asked them, what did you think about that line specifically? What did they think it meant? I'd be curious to hear what 100 different people who only watched the movie, and that's it, what they thought and what they thought that line meant, because to me personally, I feel it's a bit too vague still.
Yeah. So I
think even if you had the other movies under your belt, if you're just a casual viewer, you still may not get it. I think you'll get it more now, sure, with Gober and Eret and what they're hinting at there, but it's still somewhat vague in my opinion.
No, because you're saying this, and I actually met some of our friends in the server I mentioned at the end of each episode. Shout out to you guys. And even not all of them got that reference from the second movie. So, so again, that's something I am curious about, because again, we saw the movie and we know that was the intention of the line because we saw it in interviews and stuff, and the third movie just kind of rolls with it. But again, if you go in with no context, I'm wondering what people will make of it.
I think for the most part, it'll be just a line that was spoken, and that's about it, right? That's how I think many people will see it. Like, oh, that was a thing. Move on. Some might get it and look a little bit deeper, right? But I think for majority, it's just like, okay, that was a line. Move on. It's not that I'm saying they should be more upfront and center and in your face about it, right? I think doing that kind of vague, slightly vague, but just kind of saying I think too vague is not helpful and doesn't really show anything and kind of is a little bit too safe. So I think you should just put it out there and just be done with it, not make a big deal about it. Like we talked about that for Dragon Prince when we covered it, right? Like some of the two of the characters in it, where it's just, hey, this is who they are, this is what they are, etc., etc. This is their this is how they live their lives. This is again, it's who they are. That's it.
Yes.
Nothing else said. Nothing else matters. That's all that matters. This is who they are. I like that a lot more. I think How to Train Your Dragon's a bit too vague with it, but again, that's just me and how I feel.
Fair enough. Moving on, Rush, you call the shots.
Well, yeah, no, I was just waiting for you guys to finish. You guys got some pretty good points there on stuff. I was paying attention. It was about
Das stuff.
Dash stuff. So now that we got all the context out of the way, from your perspective, how would viewing the movie as a standalone change your thoughts on the movie? Now, you can take it from two views here. You can either take it from the standpoint of I haven't seen the two previous movies, but I know there's stuff before it, or the other How to Train Your Dragon movies and all franchise never exist. This was the only movie in the franchise, and it happened.
We kind of had a long discussion. You want to start with this one?
Sure. gotta rest your voice there for a second. So for me, I still haven't done my solo review yet because I wanted to see the movie again before doing that, but like every other weekend has been like, oh no, we have something else going on. It's like, damn it. So this is going off of my one-time viewing of the movie at the early screening. And
3 times Rush, get with the times. How?
No. So
Pussy.
I will not get with the time.
Sure.
I won't get.
That's
tired
what
of
you
it.
come back on.
Nice. Great.
Mm.
Bob, he's ruining my episode. Anyway,
I'm gonna put in for my resignation now.
I already did that like 3 years ago, but HC keeps pulling
You're
me back.
still here though.
I know. I just need to leave.
Well,
anyway,
let's assume doing a podcast with me is like a deal with the devil. You can't escape.
Hotel California. You can never leave.
Yeah.
So, on my solo viewing, my poor solo viewing, I really enjoyed what the movie was selling. It was giving the, like I said, I there's a lot of stuff that I want to say for the review, but there's just some things that I can't not say about it. And the biggest thing for me is just the theme, the whole ending, and all that stuff. Like, I don't know their relationship before, right? Because remember, we're taking this from a perspective. I don't know what's happening before. But the whole slow-mo scene when Hiccup is falling down and all that stuff is going off, I think if I wouldn't have missed that in any way, shape, or form. It may have been a little bit less, emotional. But the scene was still very thematic and very, very... It just had a lot of stuff that was just way under the surface. How Hiccup can no longer fly. Not only by, by Grimmel tearing off his wings, he's lost his foot, and he's standing on his own. And that was a big key point in the movie. Hiccup being able to stand on his own. You didn't need to see the other movies before, because they do reference it a lot. How, Valka's always like, he needs to learn that he's good. He's like, he is, but he just relies on Toothless too much. Essentially what they're saying. I remember one viewing long time ago, can't remember the exact quotes, like HC. So when you see that last scene of him standing with 1 foot, mind you, on his own, that really, I think that is a great theme, regardless of there being context or not. And so, that being said, I think I would have rated the movie higher if I hadn't seen the other two. Because, I'm not as... I can't remember the word. I'm not as mad, that's a bad word for it, as some other people, because it did stay true to the How to Train Your Dragon formula. But I still wish that, there's still some minor things here and there that I would have been fine with them, kind of sticking closer to what they were selling with the other two films. So if without all of that, it needs to be like this mentality, I would definitely rate it higher, because it's like I have no knowledge of what it needs to be, what it was before. I just know what the movie is here and now, and I appreciate it for that. And I think regardless of all of the stuff before, it's still a great movie. But I think having nothing to follow up on, no roller coaster high point to keep going higher on, without that, I think it actually makes it a better movie.
Well, I will say this. You have a lot of good points. I agree with you, and I'll probably repeat some of it because, like, no matter how you look at this, even either if you are a longtime fan like us who came to see the end of the trilogy, or you're just a newcomer who decided to check this out, the main point of this movie, like the theme of this movie, is essentially letting go of your pets.
Or letting go, but yeah.
Yeah, letting go in general. Yeah,
Like
but
just being able to let go of, things, essentially is what I would say.
Yeah, it's you
yeah.
have to let me go.
Well, bye. I mean, if you don't want to be here, I won't keep you here.
Well, it's my episode, so I'll stay until the end of the episode. Moving on, and great.
Luckily, I'm recording, by the way. Like, I'm still gonna let Arsh upload his version, but luckily,
Yeah.
I'm recording as well. If he didn't figure that out quick enough,
Yeah,
and now
I
you
was
muted HC.
no, I did nothing.
Oh, he
Let's
muted
see.
himself. Okay, then.
No, I did mute
I'm
him.
surprised. I thought.
Speaking of
Oh,
how
you
long
did
he's
mute
gonna
him.
try and figure, he figures that out quicker when he's not in, because he can still hear us. So I don't know why we're saying it like that. I don't know if he
You
knows how to
server-
unmute himself. Oh, I server muted.
I
Yeah,
don't think he does.
but
I
he should
don't
be
think
able to
he
hear us.
does.
I didn't. Oh, well, that's his fault. He shouldn't have moved me when I'm. Oh, there he is.
Yeah,
Figured it out.
hi.
Hey,
Yeah.
buddy. How's it going?
Yeah, hi. You know, you asked to be fired. You can put this on me. But
Anyways,
yeah, so like I said, the theme of the movie is, and no matter if you are a longtime fan or a newcomer, the the theme is there. Like, you know, you kind of, you understand what the movie is trying to do, and you get to the conclusion, which gives you exactly what the movie was talking about. Like, there's no cop out ending. Like, it's not like they say, oh, you need to let go of something, and then they said, but you know what, this one case might be different. No, it's not. It's not like that. It you know, it sticks a message, and it sticks to it. Now, so in that sense, it works on its own. Now, and however, and we brought this up, when you're thrown into the middle of a relationship, and it's really clear that, you know, this is a middle. Like, again, even if you haven't seen the other two movies, you know there was something before this, because, you know, it's called How to Train a Dragon: The Hidden World, not How to Train a Dragon. You are just assuming from this name that there was something before this, either one movie or two, you don't know, but there was something. So with that being said, you can probably tell that this relationship started somewhere before, and you haven't seen the beginning of it. Like, if let's say this movie, if if they released a cut of this movie which includes like a flashback to when Hiccup met Toothless, this could have probably worked better on its own. But again, it doesn't have that. It doesn't have the build up for it. It just throws you into the relationship, which, fair enough, this is the third entry. If you don't, honestly, if you haven't seen the previous two and you decide to go check out this one, this is kind of on you. You can knock the franchise for this. But at the same time, if you are seeing this, you don't have the familiarity once the climax hits and the tearful goodbye starts, which, again, it's effective. It sticks to the message, and the movie itself is, you know, it has great characters, it has funny moments, sad moments. The animation, of course, is beautiful. So for all intents and purposes, this movie can stand on its own, but it doesn't have it. You know, it is the third part of a trilogy, and you can still and you see it, even if you're a newcomer.
interesting. Yeah. Hi, it's me again. It's been a while.
Why do you
I
sound
have
like
an
an
interesting thought
informal?
for you.
Yeah, why do you sound like an
Do
infomercial
tell,
person?
Wolf.
I'm getting there.
Okay.
We're
Star
now an
Wars.
ASMR podcast.
That's right. Star Wars is a thing that exists, and Dean has referred to it. And when referencing How to Train Your Dragon, question for the both of you. Like, this question is, if you saw this movie as standalone, would it change your thoughts on it? My thoughts were that I enjoyed the third movie, that I had fun with it, that I liked what I saw. That's with context. But in talking about in our review of the third movie, me and Haddock brought up the idea of Toothless seeming way more human in terms of him chasing after the Light Fury than Animal. Like, we talked a lot about that, and there's a big discussion on that. Whether you agree or disagree, what would you think if How to Train Your Dragon, if this was the first movie that ever came out? If this was the first movie we saw, and then we got the Star Wars treatment of seeing the prequels afterwards. So this came out first, and afterwards we saw How to Train Your Dragon 1, then 2.
Hmm.
What would you think then? Because for me, I think it would be interesting to see a regression of Toothless from this more human like behavior that he's become accustomed to because he's been around Hiccup all this time, and we've seen all of these relationships and where they go. It would be interesting to see where they started from.
Wow, I can't wait to see how Stoic dies.
It's pretty lackluster, actually. That one, just the one thing is lackluster. Everything else might be more interesting, but
No,
big
Hiccup.
ball of fire.
I
kind
am
of
your
meh.
father.
But yeah, I think it would
That's
be.
actually a really interesting point. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree that is an interesting point. But to that I ask you, like, because people can interpret it in different ways. When you say this was the first movie released and then we saw prequels, would the movie be one-to-one the same, or would it be a bit changed up because this is the first time they've done a movie in this universe?
I
For
think
the
there's a lot
sake-
too much. Yeah, there's a lot too much they could change. So
Yeah, there is.
I'm
For the
with
sake
Wolf
of
here. easiness,
we'll say it's all the same. Like the first movie, the second movie, the third movie, everything's pretty much shown to you the same way.
Okay, so this movie being released like first,
And
as
then
it is,
later
as it
on, we
is
get the
like
first movie, then the second movie.
okay, so as it is right now, no changes. This is the first one thing that we see. Then it would be problematic. I won't lie, it will be problematic because, uh, again, one-to-one as it is now, as a first installment, and then we go back and see the prequels. The movie assumes way too much that I know these characters, and it assumes way too much that I know what went on with them. So if anything, saying that this is the first one released and then we're going to regress is, in my opinion, will actually hurt it.
You don't think it would add something unique to it in a way? Like seeing where they came from and then where they got back to?
Look, HC, I see your point.
Like, I'm definitely, I definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you, HC. But can I at least say that a lot of movies have less character development in standalone movies than even if they did the How to Train Your Dragon universe backwards and we had the assumed character development, we at least understand the characters better in the third movie as its own than a lot of movies have for the every other background character.
Oh, yeah, sure. And again, I'm not saying that the movie will be outright bad, but at the same time, it would hurt it. And to what Wolf said, regarding uniqueness, then yeah, sure, you're saying this now because we saw the entire trilogy in order. But imagine if this movie just showed up in theaters and you had no idea that they were going to do this. Like, And imagine if it didn't do well at the box office, so we wouldn't get those prequels. Would you
This
say
is
the
true.
same?
This is true, and probably not. No, I wouldn't.
For the sake of argument, we're assuming it happens, but I agree with you, HC, that there would be stuff changing if they wanted to make a prequel.
Yeah. Like it definitely wouldn't be 1-to-1, and there would definitely, like, if it was 1-to-1, it would definitely have been seen as a lot less than what it is now.
Hypotheticals are hard, man.
Yeah.
But that was a pretty good point, and I do like the idea
Interesting
of
point, at least,
interesting
anyways.
point at least. What if they did Ruby season
Overall,
6
though, like,
and then
I think.
did? Oh,
If
sorry,
you've not
that's
seen
for
Ruby
Sunday.
season 6, that's way more difficult.
Here we go. Here we go.
Sorry, that's for. Oh wait, HC hasn't seen it yet. Ooh, bad me. Anyway, but
Back on topic.
yeah, no,
So
that
overall,
was,
I
that
would
was
say-
good for Standalone.
So how's Spider-Verse, people? Oh
Good.
yeah, I forgot.
What, you don't think haven't seen it? Wait,
I haven't,
Double
so I
negative.
have.
So there
Anyway.
you go.
but so kind of what Wolf brought up the Star Wars point, but let's just take it as is, where it's not necessarily produced in Star Wars style, but you you see it Star Wars style. You see this movie first, and then I guess, would you go back to see the first and second movies? So almost in that Star Wars style. Pretty good segue.
Yeah.
Poorly thought out.
I don't have much to say on this one. Just that, yeah, I would. If I saw this one without any context and I liked it enough, then yeah, I would go back and check out the prequels because I want to see what led to this moment. And that's really all I have to say.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, for me, I for one love context, and two, I'm just fandom trash in general. So I think I even started on the second movie and then went back to the first. I may have, like, I continually tell my story. I may have seen the first movie, but I was probably not in my mentality of I'm in fandom mode now, which as an adult I am kind of going backwards. But anyway, so seeing the second movie and then going back to the first and looking at all of the stuff, I totally would have done it again for the third movie. I will update you on. So my sister actually was watching. I think I may have told you this, but my sister called me one time, and she mentioned something that referenced like How to Train Your. I'm like, what? I'm like, wait a second. It's like, you're watching Race to the Edge, and she's like, yeah, and like I'm like, oh my god, I got super excited. My oldest niece, who is around 3 now, I want to say. Yeah, she's 3. She was watching it, but it's like, has she seen the other movies? She's 3. Will she remember it? So I might kind of see if that happens with them, because the third movie just came out, and my sister wanted to see that. I saw the early screening, told my sister, and she got mad. But but I know that my sister would want to see it, and she's seen everything. But I don't know if I'd have to say, like, if when my nieces are older, are they going to see it in order or not? And I don't know if they even took my oldest niece to see the third movie, or it was just my sister and her husband. So I could have potentially seen the regressive behavior there, but she's also young enough, so it may not have been the same.
Well, you know something? This could be interesting. Keep us updated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In a few weeks on the Berkcast, Russia's niece reviews.
She would just want to push buttons and like probably shut me down on accident.
I don't want to come to that boo boo
That's-
boo.
That's the review.
Mm-hmm. You heard it here first. Ba ba ba.
A whole lot of button pushing, and then just the stream shuts down, and then the video shuts off.
No,
That's
tell
it.
you what
That's
are
the
you
review.
click?
No, yeah, but yeah, going back to the topic, right? It's like you were kind of still on the thoughts of the movie and would it change them? Yes, it would change it, right? And
no,
I
we
think
were on the next one.
Oh, well, going back to that one real quick, I would say for me, I'll roll it into the next one too. For me, I would say yes, it would change it. Yeah, I would view it as probably a little bit lesser. And but with that said, if this was the first one I saw, one, I think, the FOMO would kick in, the fear of missing out would definitely kick in a little bit for me, and I'd want to go back and watch the other ones just to see what I'm missing out on. But also, I think I'm the type of person who I love context, like Rush said. I like that as well. I like seeing how they build stuff up and where it's come from, where it goes, all sorts of things like that. So I would definitely go back and watch the other movies and anything else that it had as well. Like, remember, I got introduced to How to Train Your Dragon through the show originally. I didn't watch the first movie, I watched the show. And I watched, Riders of Berk the entire season, or most of that season, before I finally decided, maybe I should go and watch the movie. And I did, and then I fell in love with that way more than the show. And then I was like, this is based on books. Maybe I should go read the books, and fell in love with those as well. So it's definitely, yeah, I would be interested in checking out the other stuff that exists if this is what I saw first.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'll just say if I think people should start with this movie, and again, there's no harm with starting with this one and going back, but at the same time, I think if you're starting with this one, you're doing yourself and the movie a disservice, because
Yeah,
this was meant to be the concluding chapter. So seeing it first is just, this is not what the creators intended. So I think, just to be fair to, in order to be fair to the creators, to the creators and the franchise and the story, you should watch it. Again, I'm not saying that you should watch everything. Like, you can just watch the first two movies and go into this one. You don't necessarily need Race to the Edge or the graphic novels or the shorts, but watch at least the first two before going into this one. Not because you need them in order to understand, but it will help you appreciate it a lot more. That's my take.
fair enough.
That's a good take. Okay. Well, I mean, we generally all agree that, and of course, it's kind of hard to be retroactive in saying would we like the films if we clearly do, and it's hard again. Rhetorical situations are hard, but do you think people should start with this movie, or should they do any other of the franchise beforehand?
I'll probably say any other thing with the franchise beforehand.
Yeah, I think HC kind of covered it again earlier a little bit. Like, if you started with this one first, you'd be doing yourself a disservice, and the movie as well, and how it builds everything up. I think you should absolutely start with anything else, but again, anything else beforehand. Yeah, I would agree.
I think that's fair. I'm not saying you would technically do yourself a disservice, because this is the lowest rated movie. So if you went backwards, hey, quality's getting better according to some people. Sorry, I just had to throw that out there once, but yeah, I agree. I can't. If somebody asked me, should you see the other movies first, I would absolutely say yes for the movies. I wouldn't mention like the TV shows or any of the shorts unless they came back to me like, oh my god, the movies were great. Is there more? And I'll be like, yes.
What do you mean there's more of this?
You take the blue pill. I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And 100 and something episodes of 3 people talking about it.
Yeah,
endlessly.
Exactly. Yeah, there's more to the franchise, but it's 3 idiots talking in a podcast. Nothing really. Thanks, guys. So
what can we say?
Just saying.
We know what we are.
just want to say that Rush admitted he's an idiot, and I don't have to say it. And at the same time, he
Have
can say
I
the same about me.
ever
But here's the thing:
disputed that?
I'm self-aware, so
So am I. Have I ever disputed it?
We know what
If
we
I-
are here at the Berkcast, a terrible podcast that all of you listen to, and we're still surprised.
As Astrid
I-
says,
I-
you
I'm
know what
pro-
you are, or Pickup says to Astrid, you know who you are, and you always have known who you are. We always know we're idiots.
yeah, unprofessional and debatably amusing.
God, that's such a great tagline. Anyway,
You're welcome.
yeah.
I have my moments.
So yeah, I would, if I know there's a bunch of little kids, you know, that this is their first movie in the How to Train a Dragon franchise, and I don't doubt that they would not see the other stuff. They would definitely see the other stuff, if it not for the fact that, you know, their parents are just the end tier of the older generation of the Dragons fans, and they're like, I need to make my kids see this. Or if they were that, you know, fanatic, they would make them see the first two movies and then go see the third. But I don't doubt that that would happen. And I would, like, you know, both of you have said, definitely I would recommend them see the other movies first. And again, I wouldn't recommend the TV shows unless they ask for more. I mean, I would casually mention it, but I wouldn't say, you know, you have to see this before.
Yeah.
In fact, if somebody asked me, I would say you should see. I would say it with certainty. I wouldn't say it's like, do you think I should see this? I wouldn't say, yeah. I would say, yeah, you should absolutely see the other two first.
Okay, I think we pretty much covered it all. Something to add?
Nope.
Okay. Rash, this is your episode. Want to do the
Yeah.
Want to close
All
this?
right. Well, thank you everybody for listening. This has been the Berkcast. If you want to meet up with us, we are on Tumblr, Berkcast Team. We are on Twitter, Berkcast with a capital B, capital C, and we are also on the How to Train Your Dragon Valhalla server. Anything else?
With all that said, I was HC.
I was Rush.
And I've been Wolf.
And we will see you next time. Take care.
See ya.
Bye-bye.